Alright, Jaywalkers. As some of you know, I've recently started a TikTok and YouTube account for the show. It made me think about the ban that was supposed to be implemented, so I thought I'd do this month's episode on that. Now, bans were discussed in 2020 and 2023, but never came to fruition. April of 24, President Biden signed a ban into law to take place in January of 25. A more detailed timeline is in the bibliography in the show notes. But is banning TikTok a good idea? So from the Pennsylvania Capital Star. It might be excusable for some citizens to be lulled to sleep by the happenings of the American political system. After all, there's not much that Congress is able to accomplish with a party control divided between two chambers and an insurgent wing of the House Republicans causing headaches for Speaker Mike Johnson. Not to mention a repeat of the 2020 presidential election has not stirred much excitement among the electorate. But within 1 year, over 170 million monthly TikTok users in the US could wake up to the reality that they no longer have access to this popular social media platform. Congress recently passed a foreign assistance bill that included a measure to ban TikTok in the US if its parent company, ByteDance, does not divest its holdings to a US firm within 9 months. President Biden, who can extend the time frame by 3 months, signed the bill into law on April 24th. The rising geopolitical tensions between the United States and China and concerns over national security prompted the movement to ban TikTok. Congress had already banned it on federal government devices, as had most states, but a total ban would go further. ByteDance is a Chinese-based company, and lawmakers feared the Chinese government could have access to citizens' personal information. Further, there are concerns that TikTok can disseminate misinformation or manipulate Americans' views on China, which would sow division and confusion in the face of an actual Chinese threat. But aside from national security concerns, there may be other reasons why a TikTok ban could be good for America. First, a TikTok ban could motivate young Americans to pay attention to politics. It's not often that something that is readily available and common to Americans is taken away from them. According to the Pew Research Center, a majority of adults under 30 and teens use TikTok. Within a year, a resource that millions of Americans not only rely on for entertainment and socializing, but also for marketing their small businesses, educating themselves on DIY projects, and informing themselves about the latest news and information could disappear. While the U.S. Representative Maxwell Frost, the only Gen Z elected member of Congress, believes that a ban will harm Democrats' ability to reach out to young voters, the ban could be a wake-up call to younger Americans. The banning of a social media platform seems like it would be something found in Putin's Russia or Xi's China rather than Biden's America. The potential ban could prompt more young people to learn more about politics and to engage with the political process that led to the law in the first place. It may even spark discussions about civil liberties and the challenge of finding the proper balance between security and free speech rights, a debate already underway in the wake of university campus protests in support of Palestinians across the country. Second, the TikTok ban focuses more attention on the reliance of social media as a source of news. The major concern over TikTok is China's potential ability to spread misleading information. Does this not also apply to other social media platforms by users with nefarious intentions? Increasingly, more Americans, especially younger generations, rely on social media for their political news. While some social media platforms have safeguards to mitigate the spread of misinformation, social media posts are not scrutinized for veracity by the same standards as more traditional media outlets. In fact, the U.S. Supreme Court heard oral arguments in 2 cases on February 26th that raised the question of whether social media companies are simply mediums of transmitting information akin to a telephone line, or rather outlets of information that can be subject to editorial processes like a newspaper. If the Supreme Court rules that they are the former, then society will need to put more resources into media literacy, including teaching the necessary skills to sift through the social media garbage for credible sources of information. Finally, The TikTok ban law marked a rare occasion of bipartisanship support and opposition. The 118th Congress only passed 34 bills last year and is on pace to be one of the least productive in history. The bill to ban TikTok passed with overwhelming bipartisan support in the House, 360 to 58, and the Senate, 79 to 18. Opposition to the bill has also resulted in some interesting bedfellows. Former President Donald Trump posted on Truth Social that a ban will only increase the influence of Meta, which controls Facebook and Instagram. He wrote, "I don't want Facebook, who cheated in the last election, doing better." Trump joined TikTok himself on June 1st, and after posting one video, already has nearly 6 million followers. MAGA patriots may find themselves in agreement with free speech organizations like the ACLU, and Democrats and Democrat-leaning individuals who make up the majority, 6-1, of news consumers on TikTok. Even frequent opponents, Representatives Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Marjorie Taylor Greene, both voted in opposition to the bill. For some, a TikTok ban would be a welcome respite from ridiculous videos that may or may not be so innocuous, but for others it's an affront to free speech rights. Either way, the possibility of a TikTok ban may jolt young people into action, placing greater focus on media literacy, and even produce some common ground for a bitterly polarized electorate. And then from freepress.net. Depending on your perspective, TikTok is either a hub for hilarious videos or a tool of the Chinese Communist Party intent on harvesting the personal data of everyone in the U.S. It's the latter belief system that drove at least some votes when Congress passed a bill that would force TikTok owner ByteDance to divest its holdings if it wants to keep the app available in the U.S. The legislation, which President Biden signed into law on April 24th, is built on misconceptions about how TikTok operates. Worse, it does nothing to protect people's privacy or blunt the widespread manipulation users face across platforms, including those owned and headquartered in the U.S. Here's the lowdown on what's happening and why it matters. Why is TikTok getting banned? Supporters of the law claim they're just trying to get the app under new ownership, citing national security concern. But make no mistake, the law's requirements are so burdensome that they would result in a de facto ban, as Nora Benavides told the Washington Post. This is a pretty significant deal when you consider that TikTok has approximately 170 million users in this country alone, a majority of our nation's population. Many TikTok users expressed their devotion to the app in the run-up to the congressional vote as the company mobilized people to bombard lawmakers' offices with calls expressing opposition to the bill. While it's true that the app is home to Real Housewives parodies and other silly content, it's not all jokes. Banning TikTok would also affect the livelihood of countless small business owners and educators. The owner of a plant shop told the Washington Post that joining TikTok saved his once failing enterprise. Banning TikTok would shut down a lot of small businesses, including mine, he said. Meanwhile, a 2022 survey found that 1 in 4 TikTok users used the platform for educational purposes. A CNN piece from 2023 profiled a number of educators who used TikTok to teach history too many schools overlook. Khalil Green, for example, launched a series called Hidden History that has covered, among other topics, the xenophobic origins of the Pledge of Allegiance. Is TikTok spying on you? Using a rideshare app, browsing an online store. All kinds of everyday activities generate personal data about our identities, preferences, behaviors, and more. At any given time, dozens of corporations, including social media platforms, are tracking us, analyzing our behaviors, and profiting off our private information. An entire industry is dedicated to harvesting our sensitive data, but TikTok is hardly a unique offender. It's ridiculous for Congress to single out one app while failing to act on this huge problem that's prevalent across all of social media. It's also a problem that's difficult to escape. The 2023 Free Press report, Insatiable, Inside the Tech Industry's Quest for All Our Data, noted that even when we're not using these platforms, even if we've never used these platforms, many of these companies are still collecting data on us. This is why Free Press Action is calling on Congress to pass federal civil rights and privacy legislation to protect all internet users. We need a law that would limit how all companies collect, store, analyze, and sell our personal data. But wait, doesn't TikTok spread tons of misinformation? Have you met Facebook? How about Twitter or YouTube? All three have been hotbeds of hate, misinformation, and disinformation over the years. The 2023 Free Press report, Big Tech Backslide, How Social Media Rollbacks Endanger Democracy, shows how the failures of Meta, Twitter, and YouTube have created a toxic online environment that is vulnerable to exploitation from anti-democracy forces, white supremacists, and other bad actors. While TikTok has actually beefed up its content moderation, collectively the other three companies have removed 17 policies that had guarded against hate and disinformation, and laid off more than 40,000 employees and contractors, with many of those job losses occurring on trust and safety teams. Under Elon Musk's reckless reign, Twitter in particular has become a cesspool of hate and lies. Musk has gutted content moderation policies and reinstated thousands of previously banned accounts belonging to racists, misogynists, and other extremists. So while TikTok hardly gets a pass on this front, it also doesn't make sense to ban it while leaving these other platforms untouched. Again, we need all these companies to adopt and enforce policies that will protect users and safeguard our democracy, an urgent need in a year where dozens of countries around the world are holding elections. Would banning TikTok be a problem for free expression? Legislative bans often feel like quick fixes to legitimate policy concerns, but bans are rarely the solution. Inevitably, bans like the ones that would result from this TikTok law threaten free expression and access to ideas. If TikTok is no longer available in the United States, audiences will have to find information elsewhere after losing access to the sources they typically go to. Creators will lose their online communities and revenue and may fail to find alternative avenues for sharing their perspectives, advocating on issues, and organizing with their communities. What's next in the fight to ban TikTok? This isn't the first time the United States has tried to ban TikTok. Montana passed a law in 2023 banning the app, citing concerns over the potential for the Chinese government to access user data. That law was challenged, and a federal judge blocked the ban in that November, ruling that it was unconstitutional. On May 7th, TikTok sued the federal government over the law President Biden signed, arguing that it violates the First Amendment. Free Press Action has made the same point, noting that the law targeting one platform runs afoul of the First Amendment and unilaterally closes off essential spaces for people to connect and communicate. And it just doesn't make sense to target and vilify this one app without doing anything to address the surveillance-based business model underlying every social media platform in the United States. The Knight First Amendment Institute at Columbia University, Free Press, and PEN America filed an amicus brief in support of TikTok and a group of content creators. Unfortunately, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit dismissed the challenge to the ban. As for the memes, they all seem to be variations on "I'm glad TikTok is getting banned, I find it and its users useless," all very smug and superior, which is just annoying. So, the takeaway. I guess I don't see what the point is, or was. I was around for MySpace and Vine, now into Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok, and once the new app takes hold, TikTok will fade in use just like its predecessors. I think we have better things for Congress to be spending time on, especially since our data is the product we sell for the free use of social media. What do you think? Meet me in the crosswalk on Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, or at jaywalkthroughlife@gmail.com. Jaywalking Through Life is a product of Hidden Star Creations. We'll see you next month.